Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. Simplify's tutorials. In this tutorial, we're going to look into relevant concepts like trauma, PTSD and psychosis. We're then going to examine the link between trauma, PTSD and psychosis, and at the end of it all, look at how we can actually fight mental health disorders. So I recommend that you stay tuned till the end. It's important to firstly clarify that this tutorial explores the link between psychosis and trauma, and not between psychopathy and trauma. It's quite interesting that a lot of people, even in this day and age, seem to mix the two concepts together. Psychosis and psychopathy can sometimes be confused with one another. Now, psychosis is a set of symptoms which can spread across various mental health disorders. Psychosis is a mental state of losing touch with reality and can be attached to various disorders like substance abuse disorders, schizophrenia, and hallucinations. Being psychotic can refer to having psychosis, which is something people should try and remember before labeling someone as psychotic. It is an actual serious mental health disorder. Psychopathy, on the other hand, is a personality type characterized by antisocial behavior, a lack of empathy, impulsivity, lack of control, and manipulation. This is as defined by Hare and Newman in 2005. Let's talk about psychopathy to begin with, just to clarify the difference between the two. Psychopathy should also, by the way, not be equated to antisocial personality disorder. Studies have clarified that people with psychopathy tend to have been diagnosed with antisocial behavior disorder, but the reverse is not true. The development of psychopathy in individuals can be attributed to a number of factors, including social, environmental, developmental, cognitive, and behavioral factors. Another tutorial in this channel covers the types of psychopaths as elaborated by Kurt Snyder. I highly recommend that you check that tutorial out if you're interested in psychopathy. Okay, now let's focus our attention on psychosis and the types of psychosis. Now, we need to understand that there can be two types of psychotic symptoms: positive and negative symptoms. Positive and negative don't actually relate to one type of symptoms being better than the other. It just refers to the presence or the absence of certain experiences. Now, positive psychotic symptoms are generally characterized by the presence of unusual feelings, behaviors, and thoughts as well. Now, these can actually include hallucinations, which can again be of many types, including auditory and visual hallucinations, delusions, and also disorganized behavior. Now, disorganized behaviors are behaviors which are difficult for others around you to comprehend. And negative symptoms are characterized by the absence of many experiences. Now, these can be being emotionally inexpressive, being unmotivated or withdrawn, or being incapable of day-to-day activities like getting dressed. So now let's look at what trauma is. The American Psychological Association defines trauma as an emotional response to a distressing event like sexual abuse, physical attack, or a natural disaster. It can be a single event or a series of events. Trauma can induce long-term reactions like unpredictable emotions, distinctive flashbacks, and strained relationships. Now, importantly, trauma can lead to PTSD. Now, PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder and can be triggered by exposure to actual or threatened death, sexual violation, or serious injury. Now, this exposure can be direct or actually can be witnessed or learned. This means that PTSD can also be triggered if the trauma involves a family member, a spouse, or a friend. Development trauma is a type of trauma that encompasses all traumatic experiences that occur in someone's childhood, also called as child trauma. Now, the child trauma theory, penned in 2011, argues that children are at a higher risk of long-term behavioral and emotional damage through exposure to trauma. Trauma can have the greatest negative effect in a human being's life if it occurs in the first decade of his or her life. Now let's look at the link between trauma and psychosis. A 2015 study by Morrison et al. Reveals that trauma tends to alter the very shape of beliefs and coping responses. It further elaborates that individuals often fail to perceive things as they are, and this results in psychotic experiences as the mind tries to develop defense mechanisms. For example, if a person faced physical abuse and strict religious observance in childhood, they may start believing in spiritual entities being powerful and capable of controlling and hurting them. If the same person experiences a mugging leading to lack of sleep later on in their life, they could start hearing threatening voices of spiritual beings. This can then lead to such a person feeling threatened and unsafe around other people and even in his own presence. The study also hereby elaborated that trauma can directly lead to psychosis or can lead to PTSD and then to psychosis. Now let's look at the link between PTSD and psychosis. To study the link between PTSD and psychosis, researchers from Columbia University studied data from more than 5,500 people in the United States. They reported that 52% of people with positive psychotic symptoms reported having PTSD at some point of time in their lives. So what were the most common psychotic symptoms in these people? Some reported to see things that other people couldn't see. Many felt physical contact when nobody actually got into physical contact with them. A number of them believed that people were spying on them or were following them constantly. Some believed they could hear people's thoughts. A few were bothered by smells that nobody else could smell. And a handful believed that their thoughts and actions were being controlled by higher forces or powers. Another couple of important symptoms of PTSD are flashbacks and dissociation. Dissociation is when someone feels disconnected from their body and loses track of what was going on for a period of time, and these symptoms are in common with psychosis. So, as you can see that there is a definite link between PTSD and psychosis. This does not obviously mean that everybody who's got PTSD will develop psychosis. So let's look at the link between childhood trauma and psychosis. As we already discussed, children are at a higher risk of psychosis when exposed to trauma. Studies have revealed that the link between trauma and psychosis in children can be a result of structural abnormalities in neurological pathways. This is because children's minds are still being developed, and a trauma can actually damage the formation of neurological pathways, and this damage can be long-term. The extent of this long-term damage depends on the nature, duration, and the context wherein the trauma took place, and the nature and timing also of the intervention received by the child. A study by Putnam in 2006 revealed that childhood trauma can affect every part of a survivor's life. It can lead to social problems like homelessness, physical manifestations such as self-harm, and personal and emotional issues in forging adult relationships in future. Now, we have previously looked at Bowlby's attachment theory in this channel, and we have also looked at the types of attachment. So, a study in Bentall in 2008 revealed that a childhood trauma and an insecure attachment type can actually lead to the development of a very low self-esteem, which could develop into an overly dependent threat system in the child, and later into the development of paranoid beliefs. So we can see that there is also a very definite link, a very scary link between childhood trauma and psychosis. Now, I think it's extremely important that now that we've established a link between trauma and psychosis by looking at various studies and research conducted so far, it is extremely important to know that one actually needs to get timely help for PTSD. One needs to realize that not all PTSD will translate to psychosis. Now, a 2016 study by Gison revealed that frequent dissociation may increase the likelihood of a person with PTSD developing psychosis. Now, I understand that this is a very sensitive topic which affects one and all at some point of time in their life, directly or indirectly, but you have to realize that the only way we can fight mental health disorders is to look out for one another. So if you feel that a relative or friend is suffering or is likely to suffer from PTSD, please do get local professional help for them. A simple call to your health provider or hospital nearby will provide you info on how to avail treatment. So you got to work with people you know and also with health providers to keep the effects of trauma at bay. Timely care and support is extremely important in any mental health condition because it tends to get worse with time, and we all know it. And if you have a story to share with me and the fellow subscribers of this channel with regards to trauma, PTSD or psychosis, please do so in the comment section. Personal stories are extremely invaluable when it comes to educating the world on real-world situations. We can all read a lot of scientific papers and we can all try and understand how it actually works, but real life stories are the most invaluable. They also help us in connecting the human race. We should support one another, and that is what personal stories enable us to do. So whoever you are, your stories will help unite us all and will also make you feel better. So I just wanted to conclude this tutorial by telling you that I'm here to read your comments, and so are thousands of other people subscribed to this channel and viewing the tutorials here. Okay, I thank you very much for your attendance. I hope some really relevant and important concepts like psychosis, PTSD and trauma have been clarified for you. And as always, I request you to use the comment section, and I urge you to like this tutorial, subscribe to this channel, and keep taking good care of your own self. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.